Hi guys! I have a little project that I want to work on today, and that is going to be making a necklace using beads from the June Beads to Live By Curated collection. That's what these beads were from. And the June Sam's Bead box, the Under the Waves box, that's where these beads came from. Um, Sometimes I just love serendipity where things aren't even planned to go together, but they go together. So I've got these 2-hole dagger beads from that box that have this coating on one side and then they're clear on the other, so they have this real nice shininess. And this flash, we've got this ammonite bead from Sam's Bead box that I'm going to be bezeling around to make a pendant with these. And these orange colored matte orange colored seed beads, and these tomato red seed beads that came in the very, very colorful curated collection. And when I opened the curated collection, I saw these lentils and I knew that they would perfectly match these two colored Art Deco beads and two colored melon beads that had been in that Sam's Bead box. So we're going to be using these and these as the necklace part after I make my pendant. So I'm going to scooch these out of the way. And for the pendant, I'm going to be using both of these seed beads for my bezel. And we're just going to make kind of a sunburst pattern around the ammonite bead with these 2-hole dagger beads. For that, I'm going to be using a seed bead and this orange colored 1G thread. Let me find the end of that. There we go. So I've got this orange colored 1G thread that I'm going to be using for that. And then when we make the actual necklace, I'm going to be stringing it on this red coral soft flex and securing the necklace with a lobster clasp, some 2x2 crimp beads, and I'm going to be using my magical crimper for that. So for this, I've just got my needle, my thread, and some scissors for my bezel. We'll go ahead and get that started. I'm just going to pull off about a wingspan's worth to work with because I'm going to be going through it a couple of times in order to get it all secured. So let me set that over there. Get my needle threaded. So I know it's July and these were things from the June boxes, but I have had these in my head this whole time and I just didn't have the time to do it while I was busy working on my organization project. But now that that's all done, I can actually do my thing. So I've got my thread threaded and I'm going to start picking up a seed bead, a dagger, and I want my daggers to all face the same way. So whether I pick it up with my finished side showing or the unfinished side showing, where you get that reflection, I want to make it consistent each time I pick it up so that they are all facing the same direction when I'm done doing that. So they end up like that. So I'm just going to pick all of these up. I think that's going to be enough to go all the way around it. I will stop and test it by holding it up against the ammonite bead as I go. But it shouldn't take too long. And when you're making sure that they're facing the same direction, you want to go into the beads in the same direction each time with the bead pointing in a consistent way. So if I put it through while the point of the dagger is away from me and I went in from right to left, it will end up reversed from how it will be if I have it pointing towards me and I go in from right to left. And I am just going in through the bottom hole of these. All right, so just alternating one seed bead, one dagger, all the way around. Let's see if this fits. Okay, so that is about halfway around. That's nice to know. And for these dagger beads, this is kind of my favorite thing to do with them, is to make little like sunbursty kind of bezels. It just is really, really fun for me to do these this way. I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. Geez, I would really like to end one of these with the same amount of holes as I started with. So we're almost all the way around. Let's grab a couple more of these. Like a lot of these coin-shaped beads, they're not all the same sizes, or some of them might be larger on one side than the other. So when you do this sort of thing, you do actually want to just pick up as many as will fit around that particular bead. It may be the same for others as not for that one. Let me see, I think one more, maybe two more. Let's find out with this one. Is that going to be too tight? No, that is perfect. All right, so where I'm at with this, I'm just going to hold this flat while I pull my thread a little bit so that I have less of a tail here on the end. And I'm going to just tie a knot real quick right here. For this, so that it makes a circle. Not too tight. All right. Then I am going to pass my needle through the center hole of this bead, because that is the convenient thing about using a coin bead, is there's usually a hole, so you can help anchor it into place and not have it pop out as you are working on it. Whoop, my thread got caught on a couple of these, so I'm just going to pull it out from there. Pull that taut so that it is in the correct place. All right. And where's that coming out of? All right, so it's coming out of here. So I'm going to go through this seed bead. Let me get a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. So the thread is going through the hole here where the knot was, and it's coming out here. And I'm leaving this on the bead mat right now because it is so wobbly and janky. So I'm going to go through this next 11-0 and then the next dagger bead. little bit taut. It's a little loose, that's fine. That's fine. Because these will, as I tighten up my bezel around it, and as I do my last pass with the other beads, it will firm up and it won't be so floppy. So what I'm going to do now, where I'm at, I'm coming out of this, what's the word? This 2-hole dagger. I'm going to pick up 5 seed beads. And to do that, I'm going to pick up both those red beads and these orange beads. And these are like a really bright, like vermilion red. And this is a really corally orange, like almost a peach color. So I'm going to pick up 2 red beads, 1 orange bead, and then 2 red beads, like that. And you see this dagger bead that I'm coming out of. I'm just going to switch over here to the other side of that dagger bead. I'm going to pass my needle through the dagger bead, through this 11-0, and through the next dagger bead. Let me see if this will go close enough that you can see that. There we go. So you see I'm passing through that dagger bead on the other side so that my loop goes over and around it. And then I'm coming out of this dagger bead after I go through that first seed bead. And this is my first pass to sort of tighten things up, to start adding the sort of the embellishment, but this is also part of the bezel. So you see I've got these 5 beads kind of poking up over the top of my dagger. I'm going to do the same thing all the way around. Let me repeat what I did. So I'm coming over here out of this side of my dagger. I'm going to pick up 2 red beads, 1 orange bead, and 2 red beads. And I'm coming out of this side of my dagger. So I'm going to go back into the dagger, but on the opposite side. Just going in the same direction that that thread was coming out of before. And then I'm going to pass through this 11-0 and then through the next dagger right there. Because I want to have a little loop in front of every single dagger bead with my 5 beads that I'm just adding just now. So there's my other loop with my 5 beads. So I'm going to continue that all the way around here and I'll meet you on the other side. All right, here we are. I have added a little loop of 5 beads over each of my daggers except for this last one. We're going to add this last one and I'll show you how to add it and then step up to the next part of this bezel. I'm going to pick up my 2 red beads, my orange bead, and my 2 red beads for my final loop. And when I sew through this last dagger, instead of going through the next 11-0 and into the dagger next to it, I'm just going to sew into that 11-0 that's next to it, not all the way through to the next dagger. Make sure you can see it. So I'm sewing into this, that first 11 that was next to this one that I did before, between the daggers, the 11 that are between the daggers, not the 11 that are looped over them. And let's get that put into place. Let's tighten that up a little bit. So now that I've got my loops, now I'm going to take my needle and go up through that loop that's over my dagger. And I'm going to need to pick this up, I know, and it's going to be all floppy in my hands, and that's fine. That's fine. Because I'm coming out of this 11 in here. You can barely see it. I'm going to go up through these 2 red seed beads. And then through this orange bead right here. And once I'm coming out of this orange bead, I am ready to tighten up my bezel. And I'm going to do that by picking up an orange bead and sewing into the next orange bead from the next loop. I'm going to do that all the way around here. Pick up an orange bead. And that's the reason why the middle bead is an orange one, is so that it's easy to see. And so we get a nice little circle of orange around here. That is looped on a dagger. You want to be careful with your thread where it's going. See how that works? So I'm just going to continue around doing that. Pick up an orange bead, sew through the next orange bead, pick up an orange bead, sew through the next orange bead. And it's just that middle bead on each of these loops that I'm going to be sewing through after I pick up a single orange bead with my needle. I'm going to sew through that next orange bead and go all the way around here. And I'm probably going to go through each of them twice, just to make sure that we tighten that up on this end of our bezel. But see, it'll give us a nice circle around this ammonite bead that'll help hold it into place. So once I've finished picking all of these up and gone around it twice, I'll meet you back here so I can show you how to sew through to the other side, because we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So I'll meet you back here after I have sewn through all of my orange beads twice. Okay, so after I picked up an orange bead and then sewed through the next orange bead all the way around, I did another pass with my thread and my needle all the way through all of these orange beads, and I'm ending with an orange bead right next to one of these little columns of red beads. So I'm going to sew down through these red beads. Make sure that you guys can see what I'm doing. Like that. And you can see this is going to be real floppy. It's still real floppy. The ammonite bead is not in there very securely. That's what doing it on the other side is all about. So now that I'm coming out of here, I can go through this 11 between the dagger beads, and then through this dagger bead here. Make sure my loops don't catch on the dagger beads. This is the extra fun part about doing this with dagger beads, is your thread will definitely get caught on there. Then I'm going to turn this over, and I am right here on the other side, exactly where I started before with making my little loops of 5 beads. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to pick up 2 red beads, an orange bead, or you could switch it up. You could do 2 orange beads and a red bead, and then have one side be orange and red and the other one red and orange. It's up to you. It's a design preference. Or you could have them all be one color. That's another design preference. But then if you do that, you just have to remember that it's the middle bead in these loops that you're going to be going through on the way back. So same thing, I've got my beads. I'm going to sew through my dagger bead, through the 11-0 between the daggers, and then through my next dagger bead, like so. And I'm going to make my little loop of 5 beads. After I sew all the way around here with my little loops, I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the previous one, where I pick up an orange bead, sew through these middle orange beads, pick up another orange bead, sew through the orange beads, and go through that twice. So I'm going to do that, and when I get back to you, I'm going to have my back be looking the same as the front. Okay, so I have on this side of my bezel gone around and done all of those loops of 5 beads, and then I went around and picked up an orange bead and sewed through the next orange bead, then picked up an orange bead and sewed through the next orange bead, all the way around, and I have followed my path with my thread through twice so that it is more secure, and you can see that it is a lot less floppy and is a little bit more firm, and that that ammonite is not going anywhere. It is going to stay right in there. And with these dagger beads, because they're different on one side versus the other, it's reversible, and you could decide which side you like more. And I actually think I love this side more than this shiny side. Like, this is really pretty, and it calls out the same color that you have in the ammonite. And you've got this gold color that will look really great with the gold findings that I'm going to be using, but you've got the red and the yellow and the purple in this, and it is like a sunset, and I love that, I think, more than the others. So I'm probably going to be using this as my front rather than the other side. So where I'm coming out right now is I've finished my thread path, and I'm going to travel back up through these beads. Let's see if I can get up through there, up here. Try not to get hooked on any of those. And what I want to do is find my way up to this second row here so that I can string some beads between them for my second pass through here. And I think I might be able to do that just by going through this 11-0 between the 2 beads, and then just jumping up here to this second hole in these 2 hole beads. And I think I want to put some orange there, or maybe red. No, let's go with red. Yeah, let's go with red. And so I'm going to get out some more of my red beads because I used them all for my bezel. And I'm just going to pick up 2 of these. I think 2 is going to be enough. Maybe you'll need 3. We'll find out. And then I'm going to go through that second hole. This is going to just add some more stability to our pendant and add a little more color to it too. I think 2 holes, two beads is enough. We don't need 3. Let me just test with 3. If it's too many, I can pull this out. Yep, 3 beads is way too many. So let's get this thread passed back through. To undo it. And I'm going to remove one of these red beads from my needle. so that I only have these 2 beads between them. Go ahead and go all the way around, adding 2 beads in between and trying not to get my thread caught on these daggers. And I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all the way around. What? Why is this? Did it get caught on something? It did, didn't it? There we go. I am going to be doing this a lot, I think. So I'm going to go all the way around, adding my 2 beads, and after I've added 2 beads, I'm going to go around one more time just to reinforce it and just to strengthen it. And then once I'm done with that, we will go ahead and add a bail. And we'll just add a bail with some beads because we're going to be stringing it on to a necklace fairly shortly. So I'm going to go all the way through all of my beads, all of my daggers, adding 2 beads between each of these second holes. And then I'm going to do another thread pass. All right, so I am ending at one of my little groups of 2 beads, and I'm just going to do a little ladder stitch bail using 2 beads at a time. So I'm coming out of those 2 beads, I'm going to add 2 more, and where I'm coming out of this side of these group of 2 beads, I'm going to go into these beads again from the other side. And it's a little bit tricky with another bead in the way, but that's okay because I can do it. That should stack these 2 beads on top of it, like so. And I'm going to go through those 2 beads. That I just added and grab 2 more beads. And I'm going to go through these 2 beads on the opposite side from where my thread is coming out. Try not to get it hooked on my, come on my daggers. I'm going to go through those 2 beads that I just added. I'm going to do this until I've got about, I guess, 7 rows of beads. So I've got 3 rows here. I'm going to do 7 rows. So 2 more beads. And I'm going to sew on the top of that one. Carefully. And go through them. I'm just pinching the beads to hold them in place while I give that a little tug. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 more rows. We're looping on our daggers again. This is always the funnest part of this kind of operation. Like, you don't have to do a ladder stitch bail with seed beads. You could just have a wire guardian and attach that to that in order to attach it to a necklace or get it anywhere else. But I like having a little ladder stitch bail. So 1, 2, 3. All right, 2 more after this. And 2 more. Now, I'm going to go back through these last 2 beads that I added. But instead of adding another 2 beads onto this, I'm going to just bend it back and sew through those first 2 beads that I started with between these daggers. And this is going to be real tricky, but I can swing it. There we go. Nope, just these 2, not the dagger bead. There we go. This way it'll bend my little loop back. And now I'm going to, those last 2 beads that I added to my list, they're only attached to these beads on one side, on this side, so I want to go through them again on this side, like so. And now I'm going to go back into those same 2 beads that we started with, but I'm going to continue through these 2 beads into the dagger bead next to it. All right. And I have a thread that is cut. Go. So now this gives me a little bail that I can pass my my beading wire through when I am making my necklace. All right, so I can sew back down here and tie this off together, or I could just tie this off up here. It depends on how you feel about it, but you will want to sew off or sew back into it with your tail thread if you have not already gotten rid of it. So I'm just going to sew this off, and once I've got my pendant completely done, then we can start on our necklace. All right, so I have finished my bezel. I love it. It is so beautiful to me. And I think it's going to look really great with the rest of the necklace put together. So I'm going to set this aside for right now while I plan out the rest of this necklace. I'm going to be using two strands of the soft flex wire at a time because I've got some 2-hole beads and I'd like them to be able to go in and out together. I'm going to probably need to dump out some more of these seed beads as I work through it. So I'm going to move these a little closer to my work area. Get these over here. And let's plan it out. I think I would like it to be balanced. And in between the 2-hole beads, I think we should have these 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2. And I want to make sure that we have an even amount on each side so that I don't go through that and then not have enough to make an even amount on the other side. I think that's going to be enough beads for these. Let me open up my lentils, make sure we've got enough of those. I'm pretty sure we will. Come on, lentils. Oh, look how great they look. They're so pretty. All right. So I'm going to have the lentils be in between these other beads. And then we will have our seed beads in between those and the lentils. Oh yeah. There we go. We should have definitely enough, I believe. A great way to spend the day. Making stuff. All right. I think that's going to be long enough. Let me actually get some more of these out because we're definitely going to be using these. And let me pull off a length of beading wire. I'm going to want it to be fairly long. It's going to weave in and out. And it's going to be doubled up. So let's hope that's enough. If it's not, I can always start over with more. This is the Soft Flex red coral color beading wire. And I've got decent amount. I'd say it's about 4 feet of wire, which might seem like a lot. It might be more than I need, but I don't mind cutting off a little bit more than I need because I can always use little bits for other things like earrings and things like that. So I've got both ends of my wire on one side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my clasp on here. Hold on, let me make sure that this one works. All right, that opens and closes. So I'm just going to slide this on here and have it go all the way to the end of my wire. And now I'm going to grab a crimp to crimp it in place. By passing both ends of my wire through this crimp bead and then pulling that crimp bead all the way to the end of the wire right next to my lobster clasp. And I'm going to just crimp it. And I'm using the magical crimpers, which flatten out these sharp edges on the crimps, or sorry, round them out. So I don't need a crimp cover. These are the Soft Flex crimps, by the way, which I really like using. So I don't need a crimp cover because it gives you a nice smooth crimp like that. 8. Let's get some beads on here. I think on each strand, I'm going to pick about 3 seed beads. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And this is going to be a little tedious, so I'm just going to start this off and tell you what my pattern will be. And then I'll continue on with it on my own and just come back to you. And I like this red coral because it kind of shows through this semi-opaque orange seed beads. And I think that that was a good choice on my part. And I'm going to grab one of my lentils and pass both of these ends through the lentil, going in parallel directions like that. Get that lentil all the way to the end. You don't have to tighten it if you don't want to. You can have it be a little loose. So I'm going to have a lentil and then 3 seed beads on each strand. And then I'm going to pass both of these. Oh, you know what? I never found out. I should have tested this before I started, whether both of these will fit in these melon beads or not, because sometimes these check glass beads have a very narrow hole and you can't pass 2 strands through them. And they're single strand. Okay. 1 strand only. So this is going to be fun. It'll be part of the design. So I cannot fit 2 strands into these melon beads. Let me see if I can fit 2 in here, because that'll determine what I do with them. Oh. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. All right, so here's how it's going to work. I started off with 3 seed beads on each strand. So on this next one, I'm going to do 3 seed beads on one strand. And then I'm going to put the melon bead on the other strand. So 3 seed beads on this one. Bloop. And then the melon bead on the other strand. And then I'm going to pass these through a lentil. And it should give me kind of a more organic looking necklace. All right. Sorry, that was an extra lentil. So let's put it through this lentil, both strands, like that. And then I'm going to do the opposite strand. I'm going to put seed beads. This is the strand that had the melon bead. I'm going to do 3 seed beads on this side and a melon bead on this strand. And I'm going to alternate like that until I get to these ones. When I get to these ones, I'm going to do something a little bit different. So let me get these strung on in that pattern where it's alternating the 3 seed beads and melon beads on each strand, and then having a lentil for both of them to go through. Since these melon beads can't handle 2 strands of the medium beading wire going through them at the same time. And that's perfectly fine because it just adds a little bit to the design element, like that. So let me get these strung on until I get to the point where it's long enough for me to start adding these Art Deco beads. And when I hit there, I will come back to you and I will show you how I'm going to add those into our little strands. Okay, so I have added up to the point where I'm going to add my Art Deco bead. And you can see I've got this alternating one strand to the other for my melon beads. And on the other strand, I just have 3 of the seed beads, and then both strands go through a lentil. And I love the way this looks. I love how it just kind of rocks from one end to the other and one side to the other. So before I put on my Art Deco bead, I've got my last lentil on here. I'm going to put 3 seed beads on each strand instead of one or the other. So both strands are going to have 3 seed beads. Coming out from that lentil. So let's go 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 3 seed beads. And we'll just slide that down. And now I want to put both strands of this wire through the hole of this Art Deco bead at the same time. And I think I want them to go away from the center. So I'm going to go through on this side because this is the outside of it from this end. I've got both of those going through. Slide that down here. And then I'm going to do 3 more seed beads and another lentil. And then after the lentil, and that's 3 more seed beads on each strand, by the way, because leading up to and away from these Art Deco beads, I want that to be symmetrical. It's non-symmetrical on the rest of it, or asymmetrical, I guess. It boops from one side to the other. And I like the way it boops. I don't think that's a technical term, but it doesn't need to be. All right. Let's get these lentils on. All right, so between each of the Art Deco beads, we're going to have a section where we've got a lentil and then 3 seed beads on one strand and a check glass on the other. And now check glass. And a lentil. Don't go anywhere. How do I find the holes? There we go. The holes are way more visible on the side that has that finish on it, the coating, the shiny one. So I've got that in between them. Now I'm going to do 3 more seed beads on each strand and put my second Art Deco bead on. Then I should be ready to strand on my, or to string on my, what is it called? The pendant that I made. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Stay on there. Oh, I'm coming at it from the wrong angle. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. So just like with this one, I've got my 3 seed beads. Then I'm going to put the bead on both strands at once, then 3 seed beads and another lentil. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. And like if that's the top, I'm putting it through the top first. When I hit these second ones, I'm going to put it through what I think of as the bottom. Because it reminds me of stuff growing up out of the ground. So the ground is the bottom and the bendy outy part is the top. But that's just what my brain does with it. Your brain might do something completely different. All right, so I'm going to do another section of lentil, check glass, and lentil. Oh, but first 3 seed beads on each strand before I hit that lentil. I'm making a mess with my thing, just beads everywhere, which is fine. So lentil, then I don't know which one was which, so I don't think it matters at this point because they both went through there at the same time. So I'm just going to do one of them with seed beads and the other one with my melon bead. Come on, buddy. There you go. Well, I've got these ends. I'll go ahead and grab this lentils. I think I want enough space between each of my sides to really let this pendant shine. Let me just see how long that is. Okay, yeah, that'll be long enough. It'll be kind of a shorter necklace, which I like, I prefer. So I am going to just string on like 10 seed beads on each strand separately, not together. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like that. And then on the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that, wait, do I have, I think I might have one too many on there. There we go. That makes it a little more even. And I'm going to grab a little lentil to sit between the end of my necklace and my pendant. So I've got another 2-hole lentil on here. So I'm stringing both strands through each hole in it. Bloop. Like that. Now I'm going to strand my necklace onto here, going through that bail that I made with my ladder stitch bail. I'm just going to put both strands through here, like that. You see how it gives it a little bit of space between these elements and there so that it's kind of hanging on its own. And now I'm going to mirror what I've done on this side on the other side. And when I'm done with that, I will come back and show you how to finish off the stranding. So I'm going to just mirror it, same pattern. I've got 10 seed beads here. Well, I'll put a lentil on first, then the 10 seed beads and another lentil. We'll have the melon bead and 3 seed beads and a lentil, 3 seed beads on each strand, both strands, through the Art Deco bead, 3 seed beads on each strand, lentil, melon, lentil, 3 seed beads, Art Deco, 3 seed beads, melon, lentil, and then we'll repeat the melon, lentil, melon all the way to the end. So I will meet you back here after I get the other half of this strung. All right, so I have all of my lentils, my melon beads, and a pendant strung, and I'm going to be finishing this off. I still have my 2 strands of beading wire that are just hanging out here. So I'm going to grab 3 seed beads on each strand. 1, 2, 3 on one strand, and then 1, 2, 3 on the other. And you can attach a jump ring for closure, or because this is a pretty sturdy and solid beading wire, I'm just going to make a loop with the beading wire to connect my lobster clasp to. That makes it real easy as far as closures go. So I'm going to grab a crimp bead, or crimp tube, sorry, and I'm going to put both ends of my wire through the crimp tube. Slide it down here. It's going to be pretty close to the end, but not snug up against it, because I'm going to bend one of these wires back through to create a loop. All right. And now that I've got a loop there, I'm going to use my crimper. And again, I don't need a crimp cover with the magical crimper and these 2x2 crimp tubes, because it rounds it out really nicely so you don't get sharp edges and it looks like a little bead. Let me grab my wire cutters. I'm just going to snip my excess wire from both ends. And there we have it. A completed necklace using the below the waves bead box and the June curated collection from Beads to Live By. And they just go together so well. Actually, while we're still here, let's go ahead and make some earrings with that extra wire that I had and some of my beads. All right, let's take one of these, and I'm gonna take, I have a couple more, 4 of these. I'm gonna grab one of each of these and 1 dagger. And let's do melon bead, a couple of these, about 3, dagger, more of these, 1, 2, 3, a melon bead, and then a lentil. Let's grab this one. There we go. I like that one better. And I'm just going to put both like that. I'm going to put the other end of the wire through that. No, actually, let's add more seed beads before I put the wire through the lentils. Let's do just 3 more on each end. 1, 2. 3. And 1, 2, 3. Because I have enough wire left over to be able to do this. All right. And lentil through. Just making a real quick pair of earrings to go with my necklace. And I'm only going to make one of these on film, so you don't have to sit here while I do a second one and do the exact same thing with the second one. There we go. I think that'll work really nicely. And let me actually grab a crimp bead. Let's plop these on here real quick. I'm just going to make a little loop back down through this crimp bead with one end of my wire, just like I did on the necklace. And I want this to go all the way through. There we go. Because I need a little loop up here to put my ear wire through. Gonna crimp it. All right. And this will make a nice earring to wear with this necklace. Awesome. Great. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed me making this. And if you want to follow along, you can get little bits and bobs from Sam's Bead Shop and Beads to Live By. Anyway, bye.